All right. Hello, everybody. I am Brother Kane, and thanks for stopping by. And I'm just going to jump right into it. The topic of this video is, if you oppose DEI, does that mean you're a racist? But before I get to that, I want to talk about how the letters in DEI have been pretty much turned into an insult. And of course, it's intentional. And I think one of the reasons is because it sounds too close to DEA. And the DEA, of course, does not have the best reputation. They've made some huge mistakes in the past. With those no-knock warrants and everything, busting into people's houses at 3 o'clock in the morning and shooting up the place. Looking for somebody that ain't there, hadn't been there, or whatever. And so, not the best reputation. And so when people hear DE, they're already starting to put themselves in a negative posture. And by the time they get to the I or the A, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You're already in a negative position. You know what I mean? And so, but anyway, if you when I'm talking to people about DEI and having like a debate on it or whatever, I try to use all three words, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and force them to have to support their position, by using all three words. So you'll be like, well, so what is it about diversity, equity, and inclusion that's got you foaming at the mouth? What is it about diversity that's taking you off the deep edge? And so usually, it puts people, on their heels, and they're trying to decide, yeah, why am I against this? What is it? Because they're trying not to sound like a racist. And so that's why I like to use all three words. But anyway, it's kind of condescending, but they deserve it. And but anyway, if you oppose DEI, does that mean you're a racist? Well, I think the first thing you have to acknowledge is the fact that all of the true, really racist guys, they all oppose DEI. Okay, we're talking the neo-Nazi, Aryan Nation, skinheads, KKK, militia, Proud Boys, the white nationalists. Man, it sure is a lot of them folks out there, ain't it? Jeez, can you imagine if we had that many black hate groups out there? I mean, there would be some trouble in this country. But anyway, all of those folks are against DEI. And so you're in the company, and you share the viewpoint with the Ku Klux Klan. And so it doesn't mean that you're possibly going to be recruited to join the team, but you do share their racist point of view. And so I think you got to look in the mirror and you got to ask yourself, what is the basis for your opposition? Why are you against DEI? And so because their reasoning is pure racism. No doubt about it. It's pure racism. And so you have to say, well, what's yours? What's your position? And I think in order for you to be perceived as a racist, on that position and oppose it, you have to have a position that's something like, listen, I disagree with DEI, and I oppose it because I believe blacks, Hispanics, and women are just as qualified, just as experienced, and just as talented as white men. So they don't need DEI. DEI is an unfair advantage, that they don't need because they are just as qualified. And so if you had that stance, that would be a non-racist point of view. But the racist point of view automatically assumes that the people hired under DEI are not qualified. They make a blanket assumption that they're not qualified with no evidence. And that's what Trump did. When he came out after the plane crash, he came out and saying that, this whole thing was DEI related, and he had no evidence on anything. I mean, they hadn't even found the plane yet. and he was talking about blaming it on DEI. It's almost like he was setting the stage for something. They needed some incident to happen so they could blame it on DEI, and then they can go on their assault, to going after DEI. And I mean, it would be nice to see these folks that are foaming at the mouth over DEI to at least walk out with a folder every now and then that's got a whole list of low performance ratings for people who were hired under DEI. So you can show that, hey, look at these performance reports. These people, they were showing up late. They haven't been performing to the standards, and they were all hired under DEI. So at least you would have something to hang your hat on. But they never have any of that. They never have any evidence whatsoever to support that. And that's what racism is all about. You don't have any evidence. That's the whole point, But it's ironic, though, that white women are the ones that have been benefiting the most from DEI programs. Black folks have been complaining about the programs. They've been complaining that they haven't been getting the jobs. They've been getting passed over for the jobs. And so, and it hasn't been working the way it's supposed to work. Now, you haven't seen any white women step up and defend the program, and let people know that, hey, I was hired under DEI, and I was qualified, and stand up for the program, and you can't blame them. You know what I mean? What's the upside? I mean, they're firing people that were hired under DEI. And so if you show up and telling people you were hired under DEI, then your butt might get fired too, So you can't blame them for not really standing up and saying anything. But but they are the ones that have benefited the most from the DEI programs, And so, but when you think about it, all of these programs, affirmative action, all the anti-discrimination, the quota programs, all those things, they were sort of doomed for failure right from the beginning, even way back when, because even though they were all set up as a program for qualified blacks, to get jobs and opportunities, the problem was that most whites, especially back then, they could never wrap their brains around the concept of a qualified black. They just couldn't do it, especially a black that was more qualified for a white. I mean, than a white. I mean, that just never could compute. They always saw all of those programs as a handout. And even if the black guy was qualified as the white guy, then they would just shift their position and say, well, hey, the white guy's just more deserving for the job. We're going to give Joe that job. He just got married, and that black guy, he can go find him a job somewhere else, And that brings me to the good old boy network. Okay, I mean, of which is alive and well, and we know how that works. Like they always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And the good old boy network, whether it's nepotism, favoritism, or I know himism, whatever it is, it's people getting jobs based on who they know. And white guys have been getting those type jobs, based on their college buddies, from their friends, long lost relatives, neighbors, whoever, And all these folks, once again, that are foaming at the mouth over DEI, you never see them coming out and speaking out against the good old boy network and white guys getting jobs that they don't deserve and they're not qualified for. And they're getting jobs over blacks and other folks that are more qualified. And they have some nerve to be preaching this merit-based hiring when they sat there and pushed through all of Trump's non-qualified nominees for all of those cabinet positions. None of those folks were qualified. I mean, none of them. I kind of thought Marco Rubio was kind of qualified at first, but after seeing him in the position and seeing some of his stances and some of the things that he said and some of the moves that he's made, he's not even qualified for the position because he has no backbone. He doesn't know how to stand up for what he believes in. He just want to have the job. The man looks like he's about to burst into tears every time he opens his mouth. But anyway, so none of those guys were qualified, but all of these issues with DEI and all rolling back all of this stuff with the rolling back the civil rights and the Voting Rights Act and all that stuff, it all circles back to the White Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. Okay, the White Heritage Foundation, they have been working on Project 2025 or some version of it for years, 20 or 30 years. And they've had some Republican presidents to implement parts of it, but now they finally found a president that can implement the whole thing, And so back to the statement here. So are you a racist if you oppose DEI? Well, all racist individuals, they all oppose DEI. So you got yourself some company, And if you don't want to take my off ramp and say that blacks, Hispanics, and women don't need DEI because they're just as qualified, then you have to admit that you have a racist point of view on this issue. Now, it doesn't mean that you're ready to join one of these hate groups, but you sound like you kept the invitation. Okay, so that's all I got for now, folks. Thanks for coming by and thanks for listening. If you know some shit, click the like button and subscribe. And if you don't know shit, then don't. But anyway, thanks for coming by, and I got a lot more coming up later. Take care. Stay safe.